What's up, everybody on YouTube? AJ Russ back here with another video, and today we'll be recapping week 3 of the NFL season. I hope y'all guys have been enjoying this series. This past week there was a lot of interesting matchups. We're talking about the Bills and the Dolphins. Even a game like the Cowboys and Giants that took place on Monday night, that was a solid matchup as well. Going to get into the video though, I want to go on and talk about the Jaguars and the Los Angeles Chargers. And this was a surprising game. Obviously, the Jaguars have had the #1 pick in the previous 2 years, but they looked really good. Trevor Lawrence, #1 pick of the 2021 draft, he had 262 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and he looked really good. Showed people why he was the #1 pick last year. And Justin Herbert, I mean, he almost had 300 passing yards, but he's still dealing with a cracked ribs injury that he suffered in the previous week against the Chiefs. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully he can get healthy as soon as possible and they don't rush anything with him, because of course those are 2 good quarterbacks, and Justin Herbert, he's already talked as a top 5 quarterback. So we'll see what happens there. But the Jaguars prevailed and won that game 38-10. A Sunday night matchup that we saw, the Broncos and the 49ers, a really low scoring game, 11-10. It really wasn't that entertaining. Honestly, I fell asleep on it, but one highlight from the game that we had was Jimmy Garoppolo imitating Dan Orlovsky walking out of bounds, getting the safety for the 49ers. I felt like that was pretty funny. But now the Broncos won the game 11-10. They're 2-1. A lot of question marks have been with them, with their new coach Nathaniel Hackett, and how Russell Wilson and them are going to coexist. But I mean, I feel like the Broncos will be okay, but they're in a tough division. Speaking of the AFC West, the Chiefs suffered a surprising loss against the Colts, considering that they tied in week 1 and then lost in week 2. The Chiefs really should have dominated this game, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a week 3. You can lose to anybody, and we tend to overreact at this point in the season, so anything is possible. I'm sure the Chiefs will be fine. The last team in the AFC West that had a game on Sunday was the Raiders, and they played against the Titans, and they lost 24-22. So I mean, the Raiders now, they're 0-3. There's really no room for error in that division if you want to make the playoffs, because really the Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Chiefs, they're all good enough to make it. So you need to come on with it, because if they keep losing, they're not going to make the playoffs. So we'll see what transpires with them. They had Devontae Adams, arguably the best wide receiver in the league. Derek Carr was his college teammate. I mean, he's a solid NFL quarterback. I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but they better come with it if they want to make the postseason. A game that we have to talk about is the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. The Dallas Cowboys defense looked dominant as ever, arguably the best defense in the league right now. They sacked Daniel Jones a total of 5 times, and they even kept off the game with a Trayvon Diggs signature interception. So that was good for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, them not having Dak Prescott right now, a lot of teams and a lot of people, including myself, thought their season was over after that loss against the Buccaneers. But without Dak, Cooper Rush has been able to play good as a backup coming in, and Micah Parsons has been dominant, arguably the defensive player of the year, and they won that game 23-16. So we'll see what happens with the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East. Obviously right now the Eagles are the favorites in that division, but the Cowboys look better than we all expected after week 1. Last Thursday night's game, I didn't want to forget about that. What took place against the Browns and the Steelers, an in-division matchup. The Browns won that game 29-17. Shout out to Nick Chubb. He had a lot of good yardage, my fantasy running back. So I feel like that was a solid game too. And yeah, that's always a good matchup between those 2 teams. These next couple of games we can speed through. So the Chicago Bears beat the Texans 23-20. I mean, 2, teams, but I mean, the Bears, they're 2-1, so that's interesting. But like I said, it's week 3. Things can change so quickly in the NFL. And then also the Eagles won 24-8 against the Washington Commanders. They're continuing to look great. One of the best teams in the league. Jalen Hurts is really making a case for MVP right now, even though it's still early in the season. But he had over 360 passing yards. And then also Devontae Smith, his star wide receiver, had 169 receiving yards. So the Eagles are definitely looking tough. The Panthers beat the Saints 22-14. Not really too much to say that the Panthers grabbed their first win of the year. The Saints, they've been looking up and down with Jameis Winston. I hope they can get things together, because I really want Jameis Winston to do well. But then moving on to the next game, the Ravens beat the New England Patriots 37-26. Lamar Jackson is continuing to be that dude. Another MVP favorite between him, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson, he deserved that money this past season. So now next year, the Ravens are going to have to back up the Brinks choice for him, because, I mean, honestly, he deserves it. One of the greatest quarterbacks in the league. Won the MVP in his 2nd season back in 2019. So, yeah, he for sure should have got paid. A couple more games we can fly through. The Battle of the Burbs. The Falcons played the Seahawks. The Falcons won 27-23. Geno Smith against Marcus Mariota. I mean, no offense to them, but I mean, those are just like 2 mid-tier quarterbacks. So nothing too much to be said there, but the Falcons grabbed their first win of the year. Then the Rams played against the Cardinals, an in-divisional matchup. The Rams won that game, so they're looking better after losing that big game in week 1 against the Bills. And obviously the Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray. So I mean, they're 1-2 right now, but I mean, like I said, it's week 3. Things can change so quickly. You can be 1-2, and then like 5 weeks later, you can go on like a 5-game winning streak. So things change so quickly in the league. The Bengals finally grabbed their first win of the year after losing to the Steelers in week 1, and then the surprising loss to the Cowboys in week 2. But they beat the Jets 27-12. So not too surprising beating the Jets like that. The Bengals, I feel like they're a good team. People say that last year was a fluke, but they just need to get things together with their offensive line. Like, that's number one. You have to protect Joe Burrow. Like, that should be the number one key. One game we can speed through is a matchup between the Vikings and the Lions. The Vikings won 28-24. They needed that win after losing bad to the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2. So really nothing too much to talk about there. And then the next game that we thought was going to be more entertaining was the Bucks and the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, even though they're older now. Still was looking forward to that matchup, but it only ended up being 14-12. Green Bay won that game. Really a controversial ending. You know, Tampa Bay arguably had 2 delay of games. One wasn't called, but the next one was called for the 2-point attempt that Tampa Bay had, and that ended up losing them the game. So that was a okay game. I watched it live. I mean, there was a lot of defense being played, but one thing to talk about is how hard it is for Tampa to score. So we got to look at that throughout the season. But like I said, it's only week 3, so I mean, things can change. The last game that we can talk about from this week 3 slate for sure is the Dolphins and the Bills. A really interesting matchup. The Dolphins won that game 21-19, and the Bills have been, you know, named as the best team in the league right now. And in this game, they had 6 defensive starters not play. So I mean, you can look at that for what it is in this matchup. Next matchup they have, I mean, if they're more healthy, we can really say that's more of a legit look at it. But the Dolphins look good. Tua, he only had 18 passing attempts, and he was out for a little bit because he had got ringed up. But he went 13 for 18, and he looked very solid. I mean, he was connecting with his wide receivers. Jalen Waddle had over 100 passing. I mean, not 100 passing, 100 receiving yards. And then they just look good overall. Their defense looks solid. They really have a competent team. So I feel like the Dolphins, they're really legit. And then also on the other end, Josh Allen, he had over 400 passing yards. So I mean, I think that this is just an early week 3 game between 2 potential contenders. I still think the Bills are the best team in the league. But it was a really good matchup to see, and it's going to be a good matchup to see later in the season when they play again. Let me know in the comments down below who your favorite NFL team is, how you think things are going with them right now, and just in the season overall, and even some of your predictions. So let me know in the comments down below. Let's chat, let's talk. I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Swaggy Russ, and also on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02. Stay tuned for more videos. I appreciate y'all. Let me know if y'all like this series of the NFL week recaps. And yeah, y'all stay blessed. Hope y'all are doing well, enjoying your fall, and having a good one. Be safe.